If our children are the seeds and we are their gardeners, how we plant them and the way we tend to them will determine if they reach their full bloom. So we choose to listen to our intuition, focus on connection, and stay deeply rooted in order to make the most of every season in motherhood. We don't have all the answers, and we probably never will. We are learning as they grow. This is our journey, and by sharing our truths, we hope to encourage anyone along the way. Welcome to the Learning as They Grow podcast.
Welcome to the first episode of Learning as They Grow. First episode. I'm so excited. Yay! We're doing it. Okay, I'm your host, Alisha Foster, and my co-host, Lily Coco.
Hi.
For those of you who don't know Lily, she is an amazing mother to sweet girl Paisley, who is just 1 month older than my Ellington. So we really had to lean in on each other on that first couple of months of motherhood and be like, what is going on? Are you going through this? I don't know what's happening. And it really just bonded us. I could not have done it without the support of Lily and other moms who just were in the same boat. She is a content creator and just shares her journey of motherhood with so many mothers and has inspired so many, including myself. And so I'm just so happy to have her here. We're going to jump right in. We're going to start every episode with some highs and grows. That's right, grows, G-R-O-W-S, not lows, because every opportunity, whether positive or negative, is a growing opportunity. So let's start with our highs, some awesome things that's happened to us this week. I'll go ahead and get started. So something really cool that happened is the libraries near us opened up the family story time, which doesn't seem that exciting, but our COVID babies have never experienced this. And this is something that I heard from so many moms whenever I told them I would be a stay-at-home mom, that you have to go to the Mother Goose story time at the library. It's the best. They do songs and music. And I'm like, they don't offer that for our babies. It's all virtual. So this was the first time they opened it up, and we got to go to 2 already, and we've had just a blast. And yeah, so that was our high of the week. What about you, Lily?
For my motherhood high, I would have to say just watching Paisley grow, but this week has been really special. She's putting like sentences together. So she says, jacket on, shoes on, backpack on, outside bye-bye, car, drive. Like she's saying, get dressed, let's go outside, we're going to go on a trip. Or we've always provided her with an options of like choosing things, but now she's so specific and deliberate about it. She says, tutu on, overalls, like she doesn't say overalls for that one, she just says which is on, and she's picking what she's wearing. She's advocating for herself. She's so confident in her voice, and seeing it go from just one sound and one word to now putting this story together. She's sharing her experience, and for me to take it in, it's like, whoa, you're a full-size human. Like, she's not a baby anymore. It's so weird. She's almost 1.5, and you're like, whoa, you're 50% of your 80% of 3 years have grown. Like,
don't break it down into all of that. That's wild.
I know, but isn't it? It's like, it's 50% of their, all the values and the virtues they're going to take in. That's going to be the foundation of their growth, is that 3 years. And so we're halfway through that. So, whoa.
Wow. Well, that's a great high. That is so exciting. I can't wait to hear that. I actually just listened to your video the other day of her first words, and I was so impressed, and I was like, yes. And we're working on words right now too. I'm just so excited for you. That's so great. Okay. So jumping into our grow of the week. I thought about this one for a minute, and I was like thinking of my motherhood grow, but then I'm like, I can't miss this opportunity to share my personal grow right now. Something that just has to do with me. And, that's starting this podcast. This has been something that I've been thinking about, talking about for months and months and months, and just kind of thinking, no, nobody's going to want to listen. I don't need to do that. What am I going to talk about? And then as time went on, I kept just thinking, I need to share this stuff with people. I wish I had somebody who shared this stuff with me, or I did lean in on people who shared this stuff. So just doing it. I'm just jumping in, and I'm so thankful for the encouragement from friends. Lily has been so inspiring and helpful too, and just overcoming the fears and the judgment and the learning curves, learning new software, and just doing it. So that's my grow for the week.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. It is such a big step, and it takes so much because there are so many things that come along. It's one thing carrying yourself as a human being and having different conversations, but when you put yourself in a public platform and kind of allow others to just criticize yourself, and especially when it comes to motherhood, like being in this mom space and seeing the social media of motherhood, no one is as bitchier as moms. Like they are
Right.
so loving and kind, but because they're so set on protecting their own kid, their opinion and how they want to do things is so important, and they stand strong by it. And so on my platforms, I have moms who are just coming at each other. It's really sad. But they're coming at each other and they're ready to come after anybody, because when somebody disagrees with them, it's almost like they're attacking the mom or the way that they're raising their kid, which isn't always the case. But to put yourself out in that space and say, hey, I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to share my journey, and I'm just going to be honest about it. Like it takes a strong back, and I'm so proud of you for doing it, because all along I've really loved your words. I've loved what you're saying, and I want to keep encouraging you because I think it is really important, and you're going to help other moms. It's not just about, oh, I'm going to talk about what I like. Like there are moms who are seeking this and you're helping them. So I just want to hop on that of your
I
train
appreciate that. Like
and
I've told
encourage
you, I'm
them.
like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then you have some amazing thing to just inspire me for that day. Or I've had a couple of friends reaching out as I've been posting about this. And at first I'm like, what are people going to think? And then I was really surprised by the feedback, and people are like excited for this first episode. So this is really
Yay.
awesome, and a big grow and a high at the same time for me. So what
Yeah.
is your grow of the week, Lily?
My grow would have to be, for my motherhood, I would have to say learning how to adapt to not be the number one needed person in my daughter's life. This is so backwards, but because I spend 24/7 with her and I sometimes complain about being so needed, constantly I'll say things like, oh, I wish, I want her to spend more time with my husband and have daddy time, but she's just so onto me. And then this week she actually started separating herself a little bit, which I've heard happens once they stop nursing, well, nurse less, but she's spending more time with her dad, which I'm so excited to see. But one day it happened so sudden that she was crying and I couldn't help her. And it was the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't help my daughter. Like it catches your heart a little bit, where
Yeah, yeah.
you don't want to be as needed as much, but when it happens so fast and it's this abrupt change, although it's something you've been looking forward to, when it happens, it just like, whoa, that was a little sudden. And so I'm learning to just kind of adjust. It honestly was only one day. She's back to like just being on me and just like holding on to me as a monkey. But it was something that I had to like speak kindly to myself about, because I often want to be my own worst enemy, where here I had to just literally pray and ask God for grace to be kind and gentle with myself, and not see that this as a negative. But it is a growing opportunity. She's becoming more independent. She's becoming her own person. She's always been her own person, and just to adjust to it a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. That is hard. As they grow, we're like, no, come back, my baby. But then we're like, oh, I can't wait till you can do this on your own, right?
It's
It's
so wild.
double-edged
Yeah,
sword. I know.
totally.
I know. All right. Well, that's awesome. The daddy time is just like, oh, my heart. Like you said, you're like seeing them bonding, and it's the most beautiful thing. But then you're also like, hey, do you want to come do that with me?
Do you still need me?
Right.
Do you remember that one time we left?
Oh my
So
gosh.
silly.
Okay. We're gonna jump in to our episode. Are y'all ready? Our episode topic. We're gonna start kind of at the beginning of motherhood. At the beginning of having a new baby. The fourth trimester. I feel that this is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Honestly, you kind of just fall into this after having a baby, whether you're at a birth center or a hospital, and it's like, oh yeah, we did the class and we got some help at the hospital from the nurses, or the midwives came and talked to us. But then all of a sudden you're at home and you're alone with this new baby, and you're a new person yourself. So you're just trying to figure everything out. And so I feel the fourth trimester is just a huge step that has to be talked about and just thought about. And something that I think is really important is to understand there's two parts to this new trimester. And I'm going to kind of break it down into the physical aspect, and that being obviously everything your body's going through in these first couple months, as well as everything that you're adjusting to with having a new baby. And then the other side of it is the emotional and mental side, which I think is huge and so important to talk about and know what's normal or what's more common, I guess. And so we're going to break it down into those two things. We're going to get started with the physical. Let's just get right into the nitty gritty. Anybody who's here listening has probably experienced birth or is going to be experiencing birth or has a spouse that is experiencing birth. So we're just going to get right into it. And let's talk about recovering physically from birth and how that looks differently if you're having a vaginal birth or a C-section. And not that one is easier or harder than the other, but they both are very different. And so I think it's important to discuss that. And fortunately for this episode, we have a person on each side. So I went through a cesarean and had a lot of things that I just had to learn along the way. And I wish that I would have known ahead of time. And I took a long 10-week comprehensive class, but in my mind, I was physically preparing for a vaginal birth. So I don't know if I just didn't really pay attention to the cesarean part, but there was a lot that I remember just reaching out to women who had C-sections as well and being like, what is happening? Is this normal? How do I do this? When am I ever going to feel myself again? So I'm going to dive into that part. And then Lily is going to share with us her experience of vaginal birth recovery. So you want to get started with your part? That might be more common for women who have experienced.
I would have to disagree with that point just because the more moms I talk to, it seems like this C-section is almost pushed more onto moms recently. I know within the hospital world, it's a lot easier for the doctor. It's a lot faster. Plus, if they see any sort of problems, the heart rate or anything going up, it's kind of the go-to jump to option. So it seems like a lot of people are actually having a C-section. Although they might be preparing, like literally your case
some
where
sign up for it.
Yeah, that's true. But for me, the recovery was like this. So through my pregnancy at the end, I got hemorrhoids, which I didn't know about at all. And I was so confused. And I went to my OB and I was like, what the heck is this? And she's like, oh, that's hemorrhoids. That happens. I was like, okay. So then while pushing, they actually got bigger. And when I got home, I would have to sit with the baby or whatever. And it was uncomfortable to sit. So then you're already kind of sore, hurting, you're bleeding. And this is like a bigger bleed than your period. Like you've got goods coming out for 6 weeks or something. And so I really struggled with that and just being comfortable because you're tired. You're up every 2 hours, if not more, and you just went through this big ordeal, and you're just tired. So keeping yourself up and in good energy and physically fit and physically available is so important. But if you're not feeling well and you can't just sit and relax, it just becomes bothersome. Like it's everything you do becomes kind of easy to annoy. And at that point, we had just moved to Nashville, so we didn't have a table. We were sitting on the floor and eating. So then that became uncomfortable. Every little thing becomes really uncomfortable. Something that helped me was this herbal bath that my mom recommended. And bathing in that for 30 minutes, that first week, 2 weeks, I did it once a day for a whole week and a half. And I healed so fast once I started getting into that. It's specifically made for hemorrhoids and to help tighten things up. It's just all natural and wonderful. And so highly recommend that and getting that put together. And
can we backtrack real quick? Can you talk about how you prepared or dealt with the bleeding? Is this a normal, do women use pads? What kind of pads? What do you need to have to be prepared for all of that?
So the hospital gave me these really large pads, and then I had ordered some more. And it's a gross feeling because it's so much bigger than a period, and you just keep changing them all the time, and you kind of feel like a baby. You come home with this baby
in your diaper.
Yeah, you're changing them, you're changing yourself, you're both just up and sore and hurting and don't know what's going on and hungry, which is a great way to bond with your baby. But I use pads, and then something I actually forgot about, I'm glad you mentioned it, but they had recommended to ice your downstairs they didn't tell me about it at the hospital. They just gave me the ice packs, and I thought it was like just basket. So I didn't ice right away, and I wish I should have.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then later I found out you can do these icicle pads where you put aloe vera, witch hazel on a pad, throw it in the freezer, and then you stick that on. So you're icing and healing all at the same time. And that provides like a healing effect because you're putting all the goods on there, and the cold will help. But I'm such a like wussy when it comes to ice. I never ice myself when I get an injury. I just hate it. And so when they brought me that basket with like ice and some ibuprofen, I was like, I don't know what that's for. I know I should have known. And everyone's like, you should have put ice on it right away. And I wish the nurses told me that. Anyways.
Okay, well, that's good to know, though. I think that's the kind of stuff that some people don't know. And then they learn weeks later, and it's like, oh, I should have been doing this the whole time.
Yeah, they provide you with like this example of like doing a sandwich. So you put the pad, and then you do the aloe vera, like a mayo. So if your pad is your bread, you do aloe vera as your mayo, and then you put these witch hazel soaked pads like a pepperoni, you know, and you stack that on, and then you flap that sandwich up. But that wasn't taught to me till later. Plus, things are kind of loose and gooey, so it all kind of moves. But freezing it becomes a whole separate thing. And so I highly recommend that for the healing.
Okay, that's good to know. Yes. Okay.
It's not cute.
I don't know. No, I'm like, let's just get into the gross nitty gritty because that's unfortunately what you have to go through. And I love how you're able to spin it and say it is a good bonding experience for you and your child because you're realizing they're uncomfortable. They don't know where they are. They're in a new setting. They're in a new body. They're trying to figure their body out just as we're trying to figure out our new body. And it's a temporary thing that we go through, just recovering physically. But it is a kind of gross time when you're like, oh, I hope people aren't embarrassed or ashamed to ask these kind of questions and have people that they can turn to and be like, did you bleed this much? Is this normal? Should I put something down there? Like I've heard, I don't know if you've heard of I think it's called a sitz bath. And it's literally like this insert that you put inside of your toilet and you sit in it and it like mystifies and just gets everything a little back to normal. So I hear those things like that are helpful too.
Those are supposed to help. They provided me with a spray bottle that you're supposed to like spray things. I didn't do it because I was just confused as to what it does because I was just kind of taking the baths. Although, really quick, I did get stitches, and I think one of my stitches got, God, I can't think of the word.
Infected?
Thank you. Infected.
Oh,
infected.
no. Okay.
And it kind of like bulged up like a bubble. And so that actually what made the sitting more painful than the hemorrhoids because it was right there. And then I had to go to my doctor's and I had to wait for 6 hours because they were like unavailable. It was awful. And then all they told me was, it'll go away. Just keep taking baths. And it did go away.
So you had a tear, I'm assuming, why you had to get stitches.
Yeah.
Oh, that was one of my like big fears when preparing for birth. I was just like, how do we avoid this?
Yeah.
Something I learned at the birth center and the midwives like advocated hardcore was doing these stretches that are kind of awkward. Yeah. And it's like you just have to like stretch out your opening beforehand while you're pregnant to hopefully avoid the stitches.
Did you do
and I know
those?
something I did. And I was like, all right, we're ready. I'm not going to tear.
Yeah.
And then I had to have a cesarean. So we'll see how it goes next time. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of preparation that you just don't know of until it happens. So that's interesting. And okay, you talked about the herbal bath. I love that. That is something that the midwives like send us home with. And
it's the best thing.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Something that was hard for me with having a cesarean is I couldn't get my incision wet for 6 weeks. So that was a very
like you could shower, take baths?
I could shower, but I couldn't soak. I couldn't immerse in water. So I couldn't do any baths, any pools, hot tubs, obviously stuff like that. And that was really emotional for me because I remember being so excited for when I had the baby and I was trying to have a water birth and I was like, oh, I'm going to pull her out and she's going to be on top of me and then we're going to do the herbal bath. And then it didn't go that way. And I then had to wait 6 weeks. And so when she was 6 weeks old, we did the herbal bath, and it was just like emotions because it was like, this is what I've been waiting for, you know? So
Yeah.
I love, I love that you said your mom recommended the herbal bath. Is that?
My mom recommended it. She's super big in like herbs and all that stuff. Like we're from Russia, and in Russia, everybody just forages the forest to find
I
things and eat the
love it.
mushrooms, the berries. My grandma,
Yes.
my mom knows all the plants, all the leaves, all the roots, and what they do. I think here would be like considered witchcraft because like she knows any and every leaf and what it does and its benefits. And so they have a lot more knowledge than I do, but it's something that I advocate for as well. Just the medicinal properties and power of the plants that we have, because they're not like
Yes.
scientifically made, they're like made by God to help us. And that's why animals eat certain plants, and that's, you know, there's a certain way things should go.
Yeah.
And that bath helped me more than anything. Like when I took that bath, when I got out of it, I was like, I am 5% better. And each time I
Oh, I
took it, it
love
was
that.
like 5% better.
Yes.
And then after 3 weeks, I was like, I am healed. And I was like, right after giving birth, I was already going. I was back on like filming. I was running. Like I didn't really stop except to lay down to give birth. And then I was back up again like a bunny that I am.
Yeah. Okay, well that's great. I love the herbal bath. You're gonna have to share that on your pages, like just a
Yeah.
quick recipe. So, because like I said, the midwives just kind of gave it to us in a care package. I actually still have some, and it's something that you like boil and then pour in, but I have no idea what's in it. I know it's herbs,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
but you'll have to share that recipe. Okay. I'm going to jump into the C-section
Yeah.
recovery because this, like I said, was something that was just very new, and I had to learn as I was in it. And so something that is different with that is you are going to be, if you're at a hospital, you're in the well, obviously you're at a hospital if you have a C-section because you're not going to be doing that at home. So I had to stay an additional 2 to 3 days in the hospital, which was just not something we were mentally prepared for. And then they recommended to get moving like slowly, like just try walking to go get your water. And just like you, ma'am, I was like, okay, yeah, that's maybe the first couple hours. I'll walk to get my water. And then by the second day I was home, I'm like, I've got to get moving. And something gross. You talk about hemorrhoids. Here I go. I'm going to talk about constipation because of all of the stuff that they gave me at the hospital. I struggled. And this is something that I've heard from multiple moms. And it's like the longest I've ever gone in my life without pooping. And I was in pain. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, just get it out. And they're wanting to give me stool softeners and this and that. And while that can be helpful, I was like, let me just try to get my body moving. Let's just drink lots of water, get everything moving. Let me eat some natural things like prunes and raisins and dates. And it finally worked. So by day 2 of being home, I was like, I need to walk, I need to move. We went like down the street, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I need to go back. And then the next day we went around the block, and that was a big deal. I think I cried halfway through because I was like, this is just crazy. Like, I don't know why my body can't do stuff. And I just had a surgery. Like,
Yeah.
it's not treated like that for some reason. It is just almost treated as like an inpatient, like in and out, like no big deal.
Put a
But they
band-aid over
cut
it.
through, yeah, but they cut through. I learned this afterwards. I think it was 4 layers to get to baby. So not only is your incision that you're seeing on the outside having to heal, but you also have a layer of your muscle. The nerves are being cut, and that's a weird feeling when those start growing back, and it's tingly, and then it's numb at times. And then your cervix is growing back, obviously. So there's just so many things that I think I said cervix, but uterus. Your uterus is having to grow back. So there's just so many layers to it, and it's a process. So that was something that I had to reach out to other moms, and as my muscle and everything started growing back, I started getting, what are those called whenever you have like a knot after something has been, I can't even think
An
of the word right
ulcer?
now.
Ulcer?
No,
No. A
Scar
knot?
tissue. That's
Scar
the word.
tissue.
So scar tissue started forming on the inside of my
Mm.
incision. And I was like, there's a knot. This is a stitch and it's
Mm.
infected. But the outside was fine. And so I was advised that as long as the outside is not looking red or pussy or things like that, you're good. And so
Mm.
just something that I remember reaching out and being like, I feel this knot. What is happening? And
Yeah.
I'm 14, almost 14 months postpartum, and I still feel occasional knots of scar tissue, and I still get occasional sensitivity. And that's just
Mm.
something that I'm learning along the way. So I wanted to share that with moms. One other thing I wanted to talk about regarding the cesarean recovery, the physical aspect of it, is they did offer in the hospital to take, first of all, they had me on, I think it was like ibuprofen, Tylenol, alternating right after the birth. And then by day 2, they were like, okay, here's your Tylenol with hydrocodone. And I remember being like, wait. Like, can we talk about this? Codene's like a pain med. That's a narcotic. It's a drug. And I got brushed off at the hospital for some reason. The nurse kept saying, it's just a narco. And I'm like, am I in an alternate reality? Like, do you hear? You're saying it's just a narco. I am trying to nurse my baby. Therefore, my baby is getting this narco. Just a
Yeah.
narco, right? So,
Yeah. They
yeah,
they tried
thoughts
to
on
give
that?
me fentanyl, and I was like, people are dying from fentanyl. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking? And then I
And
had
it's
to
highly
have
addictive.
yeah, and I had to talk to my husband. I'm like, what is going on? Like, and he was like, no, but it is a medicine. Like, a lot of these things are medicinal. That's how they are found through science, and then people get addicted, and that's how other people have found it and are now selling it on the
Habits
streets and all
and
of that.
drugs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it can lead to just bad addiction.
Yeah.
But I was just surprised. They were like, here's your fentanyl. I was like,
Yeah. And what was
what?
so interesting is I told her no at first, and I went the first day, and then they're like, we're just going to send you the prescription because you're going to need it. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And I fought it for a while, and then Matt was like, let's just pick it up just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And on the label, it says not for women who are pregnant or nursing. And I'm like, hi,
Wow.
I'm nursing. Like, I shouldn't be using this, right?
Yeah.
So I know, and if that is something that you feel you like have to use, do you, boo? Like, no judgment. But for me and my body, I was like, can I try without it? And I
Yeah.
did. I was able to go without it. I never took the hydrocodone. I did have to take I think it was an ibuprofen or something that was just a regular pain reliever.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit of a higher dosage than your over the counter.
Yeah.
So I did need to take that. And there were times when I didn't have it for the X amount of hours that I was supposed to. And all of a sudden I would be like
In
bedridden and
pain.
like, oh, I'm in pain. I'm inflamed feeling. So that was something that I did have to stick to, but just thought it was kind of crazy. Nobody talked about the
Yeah.
fact that it is something that is highly addictive. It is something that is going to your baby through breastfeeding. And so, like, let me hear my options, right?
Yeah.
So,
Somebody in
yeah.
our family, she had a surgery, and so she had to take pain medication, and she was still nursing at the time. And I guess what had happened was her baby got some of it through the milk, and she was so worried because her baby wouldn't wake up. So she rushed her to the hospital. They went through the whole thing, and finally the doctors were like, "Oh, she got some of it, and she was just knocked out, but like
Oh,
to a
that's
point
wild.
where she could not wake her baby up."
I can't imagine. And then
I
I'm
don't know what
sure
I would do.
after that crazy scare and your baby is currently drugged to where they're like almost unconscious, then you have to deal with them
They would call
having
this
withdrawals, I'm
withdrawals, but then
sure.
I would worry about them also contacting was the CSA, the Child
Uh,
Protective Services,
CP,
CPA,
yeah, CPS.
CPS, because you had just drugged your baby. But if it
It
happened
was
to me, I'd be
given to
like,
you
it was given
from
to
the
me by
doctors.
professionals. The experts
Yeah,
gave it to me, so of course you're going to trust them and you think that's the best choice. And then it just
wild.
kind of, I mean, it's just such a hazard for babies. It can be a hazard for mom too, because then what if you do get addicted and then you end up
And
like,
that was my thing
I,
too, is I was like, I don't want to be out of it in any way, shape, or form. I really struggled with how I felt right after my C-section. The very first time I got to hold my baby, the very first time we did skin to skin and breastfed, I was so out of it. And that is a very like sad subject for me. My husband had to jump in and like help breastfeed because I was just like out of it. I mean, I
Aw.
couldn't, yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't want to feel that ever again. I want to be present. And I wanted to be able to nurse my baby. And if we needed a co-sleep, I wanted a co-sleep and not be on something that I shouldn't,
Yeah.
have a
To your
baby.
control of your body,
Yeah.
control of your feelings.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a whole spiel that we obviously can go into for another episode, but I just wanted to put that out there that that is something that you have an option of. And we did get the medication just in case, and I ended up not needing it. So if you need it, no worries, but just know that you have options. And the same, like I said, with the constipation, like, yeah, I could have done a quick fix, but I wanted to try other options too. So
Yeah.
just have your options. Okay, so physical ooey gooey nastiness is done. Let's talk about the physical of having a new attachment to you 24/7. Welcome to parenthood. It's the most beautiful thing. It really is.
It's such a wild trip. The whole thing just
It
still kind of
is.
amazes me because it's this, like, you kind of start living all over again. You're a whole new person because you're not living for yourself. You're now living for someone else and making sure that they're so healthy, but at the same time, making sure you're eating, sleeping, drinking, doing all the right things. So if you're breastfeeding, you can provide all the correct and right nutrients for your baby, but also so you get enough sleep to be there for them, to be present. Make sure you're getting enough sleep so you can be alert and awake and there and helping them. And it, for me, it was really like a rebirth. I had to. I don't want it to sound like I'm no longer Lily from before, but I'm now Lily the mom, whereas I I don't come first for a good reason. This maternity thing kind of jumps in you where you want to make sure your baby's protected, you're taking care of them, uh, and because they can't communicate for the first months, you have to trust your intuition and really like dig in and trust what you're feeling are the instincts that are given to you naturally for a reason, because they're there to help you respond to your baby in the way that needs to be responded. And if you feel
Yes.
anxious or you feel something, it's not you're overreacting, it's not you overthinking, it's something's going on and the baby energy is telling you that something needs to happen. And just being able to like tune in and really hear what's going on with your body, to be present for the baby. It's such a, like, with your spouse, you feel really connected. You feel like you know what they're thinking almost, all of this stuff. Whereas with your baby, you really do got to tune in and say, I think she needs this, I think she needs that. And you're their advocate for such a long time, which is
Yeah.
then the transition I'm now going through of, oh, you can now advocate for yourself. You're your own
Like I've taught
independent
you how to
person.
do all these things and now you're
Weird.
doing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how you discuss the instincts, because I think that is so crucial. And it's hard in the beginning because you're trying to figure out yourself and who am I as a mom and what is normal and what is this and what is that. But if you slow down for a minute and you're like, what feels right for me and my baby and my family is what you got to do.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting to think of it as an animalistic thing. We are mammals, and if you watch mammals with their young, they don't just pop out their young and then they're like, hey, go sleep in your den over there, bear cub. Like, mama's going to sleep over here now. And they don't, just expect. I mean, some animals do pop up and start walking
Yeah.
immediately, but
Yeah.
they come over and they nurse on demand. They don't have a schedule. They don't have, certain things that I feel as humans we have tried to schedule and wrap everything around our life as it was before baby. And it's kind of an adjustment and
It's
saying, like you said, like, you are now sacrificing your life for the betterment. And
yeah.
it's yes, we're going to need to take time for mom. And yes, we're going to need to take time for our spouse and still have our own identity. But this sacrifice is so crucial. And so it's like, let's just follow those instincts. Let's give them what they need when they need it. Let's meet their needs and look
Yeah.
at how in just a year, which really isn't that long in a grand scheme of things, they start being independent and they stop needing you for certain things. And then you miss it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because you get used to it. And then the other thing that, it's a cultural thing, but it's not even like we're trying to adjust them to our schedule of feeding and things. We're trying to adjust a baby who doesn't know anything to a schedule of our job or traffic or going to the store. And it's like, oh, well, we have to wait till we eat at 6 because that's when daddy gets off work. And it's like, well, the baby just needs to eat. And like sometimes when you eat a salad, you'll get hungrier in an hour versus if you eat a steak, you might be a little bit more full. And depending on what you eat, if you're nursing, your baby might get hungrier or be a little bit fuller on different times. And so it's important to remember that they're a human being and they don't care about your boss and your schedule, that you have to work. They just don't have a grasp or understanding of those things. All they want to do is like just be with their best friend. They don't know what's going on or what the party's all about. They just arrived at this party. They only know you. They don't even have a phone to like pretend to be entertained. They're just like, I only know my best friend. Please don't leave the room. I can't even see from to the other side of the room. Like all I know is I can smell you, and when you leave I can't, and I get worried. Like there's so much they don't know, and we try to put them on this schedule to like, hey, well, mom's got to go to work and I got to do this, which I understand being, it's important to provide for your family and be financially stable, but it's important to keep that in mind when we're asking the babies to understand our routine, where you probably just started that routine, even 3 years, 2 years, like your childhood, you didn't have that routine. You didn't know really about it. Why do we expect the babies to just jump in it and, I don't know, be a CEO boss?
And especially in this stage, I think that's something that's important, is understanding that you need to have this fourth trimester for building those attachments and just soaking in what you're having that time with your baby and learning yourself, learning your baby, giving your baby time to learn, recovering. I feel it's called a fourth trimester for a reason. Like 12 weeks is it, people want to say, oh, they're not a newborn anymore, but they're still learning and they're still needing you. And you are still needing to learn your new self, learn what's going on, your new routine. So I think I don't know how it is in Tennessee, but I know, here, FMLA is the family medical leave, where you can leave your job for 12 weeks and it's not always paid, but it is legally, you cannot lose your job for 12 weeks if you have a family medical emergency, and
that's awesome.
Birth falls under that. Now, a lot of people don't know this or don't take advantage of the full time, or they think, no, 6 weeks, I only get paid for 6 weeks out. I got to get back in. And again, this is not universal. Of course, there are situations of single mothers and hardships where families need to get back to work. And I understand that. But I think it is important just to know that you do have that 12-week period. And again, it's up to your corporation of how much you get paid for it. As a teacher, I think it was 8 weeks paid. And then I continued to take the last 4 weeks and it was unpaid, and I had to pay for insurance out of my pocket. It was the silliest thing. But it was worth it for me to physically recover. I mean, it took 6 weeks for me to even be able to emerge into a bath. And then you're going to tell me now just get up and go to work. No, I needed to recover myself as well as enjoy that time with my little one. And it was so great. Like she slept on me. We just cuddled. Whenever it was hard and I was like, you're napping, I need a nap now. Whatever I needed to do in that time to survive, and whatever she needed to survive, I was able to provide for her because I had that 12 weeks. So,
and it creates that stronger bonding, like you said, and also that intuition, because we get so used to things so quickly. If we depart and separate ourselves from our baby, we'll get used to that. And so those intuitions kind of get blocked off because now our mind is thinking about the job and this other thing that we have to do, and we get back on that track. And we aren't as tuned in with the baby because that separation, it's same with your spouse or your best friend. If you go hang out with your best friend every single day to then, let's say they move away and you haven't seen them for 3 months, yes, you'll miss them, but you go on living your life. And when you reconnect, you're like, although things go back to normal, like nothing's ever changed, things did change. Things did pass. We have to be present. And I
And you
always
build new
think
connections sometimes with other people, just as if your
exactly.
child's with a new caregiver, they're starting to build that attachment with a different caregiver as well.
Totally. I think
Yeah.
companies should pay moms longer. I think they should pay them for a year. There's so many
Yeah.
important things that are taught in that first year, and it should be appreciated and respected because we're assuming that, like, oh, mom just needs to go have this quick surgery and she's back on the job. Like, who's taking care of the baby? Like the deer from the
Yeah.
backyard? No, you need someone to raise that baby, because if you want mom to be in the workforce and then later you want that baby to be in the workforce, you need to make sure that the mom is putting great values and good thoughts and all the foundations into the baby. So let's start paying moms more. Like, forget unemployment. Let's pay some moms. They're going to put that money right back into the economy. I know every
There you
mom,
go.
while
Yeah.
nursing, they're just like,
Oh,
Amazon,
yeah.
let me just purchase some
Amazon, send
things.
it to my
Everyone's
door
shopping.
tonight.
Yes, like
Yeah.
moms run it. I think they're responsible for 70, if not 80% of all
Wow.
purchases. And that's
That's
because
wild.
everyone's a family. So it's all food, everything for the house, any little gadgets, they're like, hey, we need a vacation, any travel. Moms are going to be responsible for it. Send her home. Let her get bored with the baby. She's going to be buying stuff. Like, that's how we get the economy working, not by raising gas prices and asking everyone to pay more taxes. Like, are you out of your mind, people? Sorry, that was a rant, but
welcome to
like,
Lily's TED
yo,
Talk, guys.
yeah,
We
I
need
just
to
think,
send this to big corporations and be like,
Yeah.
here is why we think you should give us a year.
I want to
I
like
love it. You
advocate
can
for
tell
all
what is
moms.
happening.
Like, yes, let's get moms to stay home. Of
Yeah.
course, if they want to go to work, totally. But like, if I want to help moms find side hustles and help them make money from home, because now with technology and like the pandemic times, if we were able to all work from home, we could do it now.
Yeah.
So
No,
why
more
don't
than
we
ever.
all do it now?
Yeah.
Let's bring that money home. Let's stay in with the kids, make sure they're supported and loved and nurtured. And then let's spend all this money we're making. Let's build back the economy. Like, forget
Yeah.
what the government is saying with all their nonsense. Like, moms are running the world, but somehow after giving pregnancy and they go into this fourth trimester, they're forgotten about. Like, they don't
Yeah.
exist. It's like, yo, we're still
And
shopping.
I've literally heard people say like, oh, did you enjoy your vacation? Like your maternity leave. And it's like, do you have
What-
any idea
What if people
maternity
said
leave
that
consists
when...
of?
No,
It's
they
wild.
don't. But what if somebody had a surgery and you're like, how was your vacation? It's like, I couldn't walk for
People
6
don't
weeks,
see
you
it that
prick.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You pooped for 4 days. How was your vacation?
Yeah, like,
Yeah, the view needs to be changed for sure. I don't know if you are aware of this, but being from another country, other countries have a lot longer
Yeah.
maternity and paternity leave.
Yeah.
They invest in
They
their
respect
parents
families.
because they understand. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, what are we doing? What
But
is
here
happening?
in America, it's so different because here it's the country of what makes it so great is that because it's so big about specializing and being capitalistic. So everyone has a specialty and everyone's a little expert, and we have this commerce that's constantly going. And so that's why we're requesting everyone to be in the workforce all the time, and that's why everyone can live the American dream of working and creating a business and all of that. And there is a beauty in it. But what happens is family gets pushed to the side, and you can take like a stereotypical rich dad example where the dad is out from the family because he's making so much money, but he's not spending time at home. And that's what we're asking
Yeah.
families to do is, hey, everybody go to work so you can make all this money, but we're neglecting the family unit for them to stay home. And then if there's, fights about the finances, about the family responsibilities, divorce happens, the kids are suffering for it. Like it just all kind of rolls into one.
Yeah.
And it's this need that we're asking everyone to get into the workforce where
Yeah.
let's get moms to stay at
Yeah.
home and make money.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to have a whole episode on this because we are obviously very passionate about
Yeah. And
all
we're
of that.
cutting close on time.
But
Sorry.
back to fourth trimester, living with a new baby. I wanted to briefly jump on. You talked about making time for yourself to eat and drink water. Like,
Yeah.
as you'll see, I will always be this person that's like drinking as I'm talking and filming. And it's constant because I, one, need to stay hydrated, but two, I'm nursing still. And I think it's so important. I don't know if this is something anybody that's listening has dealt with, but sometimes when your supply is struggling, you need more hydration. You need more fatty foods that provide a good, rich milk. And I think it's crucial to make that a priority for yourself too, because it's helping your recovery process too. So very important. Take your time, drink your water, eat, eat, eat. Moms, I feel like, are the number one people who are just eating as we're running, eating as we're running.
Constantly.
And when you're nursing, it makes you, for some reason, we're like, well, I have to be able to provide for my baby, so I must eat now. Where we kind of need to switch that and go, well, I need to be able to provide for myself too, and I
Yeah.
need to eat, period. Like, you need to have 3 meals, you need to eat
Yeah.
throughout the day. So I wanted to pop in and just say that that is very important. Drink your water, eat your food, make
Yeah.
time to do that. I can't tell you how many things how many crumbs I dropped on my baby's head while she was napping, and I was just like,
Wow.
just take that time and eat, even if the baby's attached to you still.
I used to eat in the shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would eat my
Okay.
sandwich in the shower because that was my
Ew,
like.
sandwich and soggy bread.
Well,
Oh,
the
I
sandwich
want
wasn't in the
bread.
shower, but my like
Like,
hair or my back, and I would just eat it. I was so at
but
peace.
the humidity is like getting your bread
Oh,
all moist and
do you think I let my sandwich live that long that it would get? Yeah,
yeah.
I eat. Like, have you seen my mouth? It takes half my face. I take a bite of a sandwich, half it's gone. Like, I
Oh
take
my gosh.
incredible bites, and
Okay.
shower
That
eating is something that,
shower eating. Okay,
yeah.
so I'm gonna use that as a segment
Go
or segue. I don't know
ahead.
the word. But
Segue.
shower, guys, the power of a shower. Okay, so we've now spent majority of our conversation talking about the physical aspect, and there's still so much I want to talk about, but we're gonna have to save that for another episode. Sleep, how accepting help from your family, visitors, things like that, marriage, how all of that gets affected. We will save that for another episode because we need to jump into the other part that I think is so, so, so important about the fourth trimester, the mental and emotional side. This is crucial. It is a time to be aware that things are going to be different. But I think it is a fine line of what is normal. And I think we need to stop using that term and maybe more so what is common, what is something that a lot of people might deal with.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean all the time that that is normal and okay for you to have to be going through. So I think it's important to talk about that. So I know for myself, the hormones are all over the place at that time. What do you think? How are you feeling during that time?
I would have to agree, and I totally understand it. I didn't. It's kind of. I have like two schools of thoughts on it. I think the hormones are through the roof because you just had a baby, you're feeding them and you're giving them hormones, you're feeling hormones, it's all over the place. I was emotional like once a week at least. I'm like, oh my gosh, my baby's growing up, I can't believe I have a baby, I have this. But I also went through like an anxiety and some depression thoughts where I felt like I was alone, I'm not needed, I don't exist anymore, because you get stuck in this routine of helping a baby and you want to do it. It's just I just wasn't expecting to be that needed and to. I feel bad talking about it because I really do love it. I love being needed and I love being the provider for my daughter. I just wasn't quite ready for it because you go from living only for yourself and your husband if you're married. It's two people. But then you are also responsible for this whole new human being and not just responsible as you were for yourself or your husband. Like you have to make sure they survive. Like there's a lot
Pressure
more at stake
on you.
Yeah. Which that adds because each time they like have a hiccup or a throw up or a little rash or a thing, you're like, is this all right? Is this something I need to go see? Is this okay? Who do I talk to? Is it something I ate? Is it something they ate? Is it something I put on them? Is it, there's so many questions that arise that we're not familiar with. And that itself kind of sets you in this anxiety where you, at least for me, I felt like I was always awake. So even when I was sleeping, I was like on the edge of being awake in case something happens, in case just what I need to get to her and help and, and I don't think I've still relaxed. The other night, I like lowered my shoulders in bed and took a deep breath, and I was like, "Whoa! I haven't done that in a long time. Like, that's what that feels like." Okay, but it's been over a year, so
yeah. So I feel you on the anxiety of it. I think that something that we will definitely get into on another episode is triggers as new moms who have gone through trauma ourselves. And I don't know if it's like that for everyone who, has grown up in a healthy household and didn't have anything that maybe is triggering for them. I don't know if it is still something that just could affect you. Regardless, I think it is definitely, they go hand in hand, because I know personally I dealt with some triggers that I didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, I think I had postpartum anxiety. That's what that was called. I thought that was normal, and whenever you're like, I was crying once a week, I'm like, oh, I was crying once a day. And it wasn't that, overall, the day was great. Overall, I had so many good moments. So in my mind, I'm like, therefore, I'm not depressed or having anxiety. I'm not having postpartum issues, because overall everything's good. But when those triggers would creep in and those intrusive thoughts, it was like I would just sink into it and dwell on it. And it really consumed my mind. And thank God, I'm able to talk with my spouse. Like, he's my best friend, and I was able to just talk with him about it. And he's gone through some similar things in his life. So he was able to, relate, and I was able to lean in on family. But anyways, again, whole other conversation for another episode. But I just want to share that, it is normal or common to have, some triggers and intrusive thoughts coming up if you do come from trauma. And it's okay to acknowledge that and realize that doesn't make you a bad mom. That doesn't mean if you need a minute for yourself to like collect yourself, that is okay. You have to do that to be able to provide for your baby and give him or her the full attention that they need. And so this was where earlier talking about sandwiches in the shower made me think of the power of the shower. Guys, new moms, the power of the shower is where it's at. Like, when you're just feeling up to here some days, or you just feel gross, or you're just like, I just need a minute for myself, hand that baby over if you can. Or while they're napping, lay them down and get in the shower, crank up your music. I probably listened to Chris Stapleton Starting Over 5,000 times. I don't know why. It was just like, I'm starting over. It's a good song. It's okay.
It's a good song for that.
I got down on my knees and I prayed in the shower. I cried, and I just healed. Oh, cry in the shower. Get it out.
Crying in the shower is the best feeling.
And clogged ducts, you're just like, let the milk run out. If you're having, bleeding still going on, you're just like, let it all out. It's just a beautiful picture. Not really, but let it out.
It's a good reset.
Yeah, it's a good reset. Exactly. So very, very helpful. Definitely something I am thankful that I was able to do, and I recommend for all moms.
Yeah, I would even say for single moms, if you can't hand them over and they're not napping, if it's still at young age, you can take a 3-minute shower, put them in that bassinet, bring it in the shower with you, and just hop in, hop out. They might even enjoy the shower sound because it's calming. It's the rain, it's the ocean, all of that. It's something I wish I would have done more. I didn't take advantage of that, but I wish I would have. And so I'd recommend for anyone else, try to take a shower once a day. Like, it's not even for the cleanliness, although it really helps, but to just tell yourself, hey, I'm back. This is me. When I get out of this shower, I got this.
Yeah.
And just reset yourself. And if you need to pray, if you need to cry, if you need to eat a sandwich, you just do it. You just you do it.
Yeah. And something I had to do once or twice when Matt was at work and I was needing that shower is I put the baby bath inside of the shower with me. So she was able to sit in, like, there's like a slingy part for newborns, and she was able to be in that. And I just had like the shower all the way back where I was like, I'm just getting water on myself. And it was just like, okay, I need to shower. So again, if you have to do that, do that. But if you're able to have a minute to yourself, take advantage of that, because that power of the shower is something else. And I was thinking too, while you were talking about that, when it comes to accepting help, I think that's the last thing we can talk about real quick. I know we've talked about this, and I think that is a big thing of why sometimes you feel burnout real quick, is because you want to do, and you are the provider, you are their attachment, and you feel that you cannot leave them for a second. but accept help when you can. If it's
Yeah.
there, try to accept it. That doesn't mean if you're not wanting to hand your baby over, if you're like, no, this is my time. I just want to hold her. I want to sleep with her. It's okay. Do you? And don't have visitors over early on if that's something that you're not comfortable with. Don't let the pressure of other people, make you feel like you have to have everyone over and, oh, grandma and aunt and step
Yeah.
cousin have to visit the baby in the first week. No, if you're not ready for that, don't
Yeah.
worry about it. Do you? Set those boundaries early on. But if you do need that time, accept the help when you can. I'll never forget. We went to a dinner at my in-laws with my parents as well, and so they were obviously there to help, But in my mind, I'm like, no, she nurses, she needs me, she this, she that, and I'm like
Mm,
holding her, trying to eat, and then she starts crying, and I'm like, okay, and I go into the other room, and both of my mother and my mother-in-law are like, we are here, can we help? And I'm like, no, she just needs to nurse, she just needs, and I just lost it, and I just cried at dinner,
mm,
and it was like a moment where I'm like, oh, that is okay to say, yes, maybe she will be okay with you. And sure enough, she stopped crying, I stopped crying, we got to
yeah.
enjoy our dinner, and it was like just a aha moment to be like, stop being so dang stubborn and superwoman and trying to take it all on. When
Sure.
help is there, let it happen. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it. Any last thoughts? Any other things that you think is just crucial for fourth trimester?
I think we covered the basics. I think different things can go into different tangents again, but I think the most important thing to take away is just making sure, because as much as we want to take care of the baby, just make sure as a mom you take care of yourself as well, and that's going to look different for everybody. If it means eating a little more, if it means taking 5 minutes to read so you feel like your old self, if it means putting your baby in the car and going for a drive to listen to your song and just to feel the wind with your window rolled down, if it means taking your baby to the beach and getting, like whatever that looks like to you, where you feel like you're not lost. It's so easy to get lost in that fourth trimester because we stop living for ourselves and start living for the baby, whereas we need to make sure we're still living for both. And so
Mm-hmm.
for any moms, just if you feel up to here, take that shower. If you feel like you need help, accept it and ask for it. I think a lot of times others around us want to help but not know how to help because we're not vocal about it. Because sometimes we think we want somebody to hold the baby, but maybe we just want somebody to help do the dishes. Or the other way, like, hey, can you actually hold the baby? Because I just want to do the dishes so I feel like I've accomplished something. And so just be vocal about your needs. And if it doesn't make sense in your mind, that's okay. Like the hormones, all this stuff is going on. You're learning how to do something very new, very different. So be gentle with yourself. Give yourself grace. Ask for grace to say, this is all new, not only for the baby and for the mom. And I just want to make sure moms are feeling supported, because often the baby's born and everyone's like, how's the baby? Like, how's the mom? Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
mom. Everyone's like, happy birthday to the baby, happy first birthday. And I always try to make sure, happy first motherhood year to the mom. Like, you did
Yeah.
it. You did it. We celebrate the
Yeah.
1 month, the 2 months, the 3 months. That's 1 month of motherhood, 2 months of motherhood, 3 months of motherhood that a mom had just gone through. It was all very new to her as well. She's done a lot. She's sacrificed a lot. And I think moms just need to give themselves so much more grace and credibility and just be applauded for everything that we do. Because, like, we're raising these amazing new children who are going to go and do these amazing new things. But we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, because when they are older, we still need to be there for our kids. It
Yeah,
might not be
for
as
sure.
physically demanding, but we want to take care of ourselves now.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. That is so, so real. I agree with the birthday thing. Now, as a mom, I think about on that day that I gave birth, that was a huge day for me as a mother, for me and my spouse as a couple and what
As a
we went
human
through. And
being.
so, yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely needs to be acknowledged that it is the day of your baby's birth, but it is also a victory for you to have made it 1 year, 2 year, etc. All
Yeah.
right. So wrapping up, just quick thoughts. Follow your instinct, trust your mama gut. Take time that you need. Don't let society pressure you into anything. What feels right for you and your family is what is right for you and your family. There's a million questions that pop up in the fourth trimester, just 12 weeks. And I can promise you, you will have over 100 questions of how do I do this? What do I do? And then you're reaching out to people, you're looking stuff up, you're Googling every other day. And there are going to be things out there that do feel right for you. Go with that. There are going to be things that don't feel right. Don't feel that you have to conform and do that if that is not right for you and your family. So, last thing I want to say, if you are a new mom, if you are a new parent in general, reach out to Lily or I if you ever have any question. Like, we are here, we are your advocate, we're in your corner. If you need to just vent, if you want to say, hey, I don't like what you said in this episode, or I'm so glad you talked about that. Thank you for sharing that. Or I have no idea what I'm going through. We will be here for you if you need anything. All right. That is Learning as They Grow, episode 1. We did it. Can we do an air high five?
Whoosh.
That's me. That's my life. I'm a nerd. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we can't wait to talk to y'all next week. Bye.